Solo mining is the embodiment of the original dream, a defiant act of individual sovereignty where one person, one node, and one miner take a stand against centralized control. We don't just mine for profit, we mine for principle. We mine for ourselves and for each other and for the unyielding spirit at Bitcoin's core. Join us as we dig in and hold the line. This is the Home Mining Podcast. Hello, Bitcoin home miners. SatStackingPleb here, and I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsors before we jump into another amazing episode here on the Home Mining Podcast. First up, if you want to stack sats the right way in the US or Canada, you've got to check out today's sponsor, Bitcoin Well. It's a fully non-custodial platform. It's straight to your own wallet using on-chain or Lightning. They never custody your funds. That's the way it should be. So use our link to join Bitcoin Well. You'll also earn bonus points with every Bitcoin buy you make when you sign up using our link. And those points are actually redeemable for coin tosses into their Bitcoin wishing well, which gets you free sats. You can even win up to 1 million sats in the wishing well, which is amazing. Or you can save up your points and use them for a Bidax Gamma from Solo Satoshi. So just go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen or hit the link in the description and join me on Bitcoin Well to start stacking sats today. Now, during this episode, have your Lightning wallets ready because we'll also be giving away some free sats, courtesy of Bitcoin Well. And if you're ready to go ahead and start your Bitcoin home mining journey with us, go ahead and grab a Bidax Gamma or a NerdQX++ from the Solo Satoshi store using our link or by scanning the QR code you see on the screen now. Listeners of the Home Mining Podcast that use this link have access to an exclusive discount code. All you got to do is go to the store using our link, put whatever you want in your cart, and when you go to checkout, use code 2SATS, the number 2, SATS, and you can snag yourself a nice little discount on your purchase. We really appreciate you supporting the podcast. I know you're going to enjoy this episode, and let's dig in to this next episode. Hello and welcome back to the Home Mining Podcast by Solo Satoshi, where we dig deep into the grit, gadgets, and glory of running Bitcoin miners from your basement, garage, or in today's case, a solar-powered school bus that's going to be tearing down the highway. I'm your host, 2Sats, and if you've ever dreamed of turning sunlight into sats while ditching the 9-to-5 grind, buckle up, because today we're rolling with SatStackingPleb. SatStackingPleb, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How's your fourth turning going?
Nightmarish, but hey, there's progress on the horizon with Bitcoin mining, homesteading, sovereign school buses, lots of good things that we can still cling on to hope with.
Absolutely. We got to build our way out of it.
Yes, sir. And that's the name of the game. And that's, I think, what's going to be best for us to dive deep into today is we'll touch a little bit about the stuff that you build, but most important is that huge project that you're working on getting done. That is the unlock for sovereignty and freedom in your life. And I know everybody loves your page and your build out. So you are the Marine turned pleb mining wizard, right? So we're in for a treat today.
I like that. I'll take it. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the good stuff. Your schoolie is going to be sort of your ultimate sovereignty stack, right? A solar powered bus that is part home, part miner, and an escape pod from the modern world and the troubles that are in it, right? So take us inside the build. What's the current setup look like? What's it going to look like? And let's dive into details like how many terahashes are you targeting once it's road ready, and what's this whole thing going to be looking like? Oh, and it's all said and done, and where's it at now?
Yeah, early stages. So we've had the bus for 2 years now, just hacking at it a little bit. But the ultimate goal is to drop the overhead in order to enable us to get off the hamster wheel, to remove ourselves from the workforce for at least a period of time. I would call it a sabbatical because I'm not going to have a job. I'm quitting the one I'm at because, I'm miserable doing the same thing day in and day out that is just to the end of some capitalist means to fulfill, orders for people, whatever it is I'm doing, because I do a lot of things at work. But at the end of the day, I'm miserable on the hamster wheel. And we're all trapped a little bit by the systems that we live in right now. So the goal is to exit the systems, and anybody listening to this has already figured out the Bitcoin part. That's how you exit their monetary control and take some of that control back in your life. But my wife and I, when we were looking at FIRE, the financial independence, retire early stuff in around 2020, we're looking at the expenses on the whole, life to retirement, and really taking a look at it and what is sustainable and what can we achieve on the incomes that we have now. And we ultimately both decided that, we are unhappy enough on the hamster wheel that we would like to build a bus. And we talked about it, and the bus was the way to go, because not an RV, not anything that's cheaply mass produced, right? And it's going to be vastly expensive for poor quality work. We decided on a school bus retrofit, schoolie conversion, because you're talking about a steel chamber that is designed to protect kids being hit by a train. So it's a good foundation for a house if you're going to build something to live in that's going to be mobile, and you got to pick from what's available. And it's just up our alley. We're both artists, from early on. Both went to art school before we both went to the Marine Corps, and it just fits my DIY attitude, her freedom of expression to do things the way she wants and not buy some cookie cutter. And I love that too, obviously, right? And the school bus was the decision. But we're 2 years into it, and I spent almost the first year, several months, rewiring the entire chassis, bypassing all the safeties and everything that's in the ignition for the emergency exits, removing every potential fail point I could with that wiring. And this year we've been focusing on building outside in. So that's the attack we're taking. That's our order of operations, is seal up all the holes on the roof, emergency exits, vents, strobe lights, whatever was up there. Get the windows pulled and completely resealed and waterproof. And we decided while we're doing this, it'd be a huge morale boost and just make entire sense to paint the thing, while, right before we seal up the windows for good. And that's coming up soon. So I'm excited about that. That's the thing I'm most excited about, is having, after 2 years of working on this bus, finally a real, like, visual progressive step to say, oh yes, okay, this is what we're doing. So that's very exciting. But the goal is to, in the beginning, when we're looking at the FIRE stuff and analyze everything, and we decided on the bus, it made the most sense because we're looking for retirement property. We want to own some land, and we want to do the homesteading gig, right? We want to grow our own food because the food is poison. We all know this now. And we want to, gain that sovereignty from the utility companies and build an earthship so that we have a passively geothermal cooled house that'll take us into retirement on minimal utilities, that we have to support ongoing. And then we can just stack some sovereign money and let that do its work in the background. That's another thing. We might spend an epoch on the road. Timing it, 2027 is when we hope to be done enough with the bus to put our house on the market. And where I'm sweeping all of that extra, just gonna, put it on ice and go hit the road for a little while.
Nice. Great plan. I'm impressed by your skills, persuasion skills. Sounds like you didn't need much to get the wife on board, but from a lot of people I talk to, their wives are bitching because they're running a BitAx or an S19, and you're like, hey, let's go live in a bus full of miners and hit the road. And no, it's great that you have somebody that's on board with you, and you didn't need to negotiate yourself into this. So that's good.
She's as crazy as I am, so it works well.
Perfect. Yeah, hell yeah. So That's cool. Yeah, from us just chatting a bit before the show that yeah, we have very similar goals with the homesteading and the self sovereignty aspect of things. So it's going to be huge for you to get that freedom that you have like this roof over your head and all these bills, and we're on what I call the hedonic treadmill, where it's just like one dopamine hit and one thing after the other, and we got to pay this bill and pay that bill. And once you're on it and you're firmly entrenched, it's so hard to get off of it. And so I think as Bitcoiners and especially as miners, we see more and more people aligned with this sort of ideals. And I'm sure like small little communities are going to pop up of people that are like minded. And yeah, I mean, nobody. I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel is that, and not like living in the project in a affordable housing, 15-minute cities that the UN wants. That Bill Gates, or what is it? Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, one of them, they want a 15-minute city and all this crap. It's like, no, man, give me some earth that I can put my feet on, give me some animals, and then, yeah, let me stack the most sovereign money mankind has ever known. So you and I are very much aligned there, and I'm excited to see what you do once, not just with the bus, but the earth ship. I'm looking into rammed earth homes as well.
Nice.
So
Yes.
so many good options for people like us that we don't need much. We just require something that's ours.
Yep, absolutely. And in our case, we like to build and we like to make things ours. And, it's going to be when we actually start, after we paint this bus and it's waterproof and we work our way on the inside, that's when the real fun is going to start. That's when it'll start, becoming a thing that we're working towards and not a 40-foot vehicle, the driveway that's empty. Um, but yeah, no, I left out, you asked a couple questions and I left them out. Um, say what terahash are we going to target for the bus? Let's talk about solar on on a bus. That's the problem. I have a very limited area to work with. So it's a 40-foot school bus and we got 36-ish foot of actual roof. And I covered up the forward emergency exit and that until about the mid of the bus. That's straight up solar array, nothing else will be there. There's a skylight that we're going to have over the kitchen, which is pretty massive. But that was a non-negotiable for the both of us. If you're living in a tin can, we're keeping as many windows as we can so that it's open, even though that, is a weather issue, but I can produce heat. Um, we we're gonna put a skylight on there, so I lose real estate right off the bat. It's one of and we both agree that that's what needs to happen. And a max air fan in the back, so the rear, I'm gonna almost cover the whole roof, and I'm going to try to do my absolute best to fit 5 kilowatt on this bus. Typical RVers and schoolie builders, nomads, whatever, their typical big, what's considered a massive solar array on those full vehicles that are using the whole roof is 3 kilowatt. And if I have to have panels slide under other panels and fold out or mount it to the side and pop up as an awning, I don't know exactly how I'm going to fit them all yet, but I'm going to. And, I'm going for that 5 kilowatt, and that's specifically to over provision, right? So that I can have fun with the extra power that I have, that I can have surplus production on top of what I'm going to require to sustain us. So I've been experimenting and it looks like, the terahash is up to the hardware, right? How efficient is the chip? What can I get and what can I put on my, in there? But as of right now, if you're looking at a regular like J Pro board, um, I can tell you my wattage. There we go. That would be better. I can run 600-watt load around the clock on the current battery bank solar, and I don't have all the panels hooked up yet that I've provisioned for the bus build. So I anticipate and I hope to be able to run one board from an S19, S21 around the clock. That's the goal. It's not going to truly happen, but I think I might be able to get close to that. But, a 500 to 600 watt load around the clock would be pretty amazing for such a small solar setup, because it's going to be 5 kilowatt a panel. that's potential. You're never going to produce that. Maybe 80% of that on a practical application. So, and if here, there's more trick to it as well. It depends on how you're doing it. If you're going like dirty, 100 acres ranch, paving the fucking way with the direct DC stuff. And, I can sustain what, well, I'm getting lost in my own thought. This is why I'm not allowed to go too far off the leash, because I'll trail. But,
No,
um,
go for it.
um, okay, so with the direct DC and his system, running it, I can hit probably with the J Pro board. It's like 25 terahash on a 24-hour period. Not too bad. Not considering I don't have all the panels plugged in. I'm not fully optimized. I'm still fucking around and learning with it all. Um, but I hope that I aim to, and I will. I'll acquire some S21 hardware, or maybe even something better. Maybe a couple of Ember ones. Um,
Now we're talking. Yeah, yeah.
right? Like, but
So are you somebody that because like I mean there's so many different technical aspects that you're having to put into practice here. Are you an engineer by trade? Are you like is this all just stuff you've been learning piece by piece on the fly as you've got this
yeah,
idea?
yeah, I'm
Oh
just a nerd
shit!
with an internet connection.
All
So I've
right.
held positions with defense contractors as an engineer. That was my title. I was a field engineer with Lockheed Martin. After I got out of the Marine Corps and took the job with them, they basically recruited me. Yeah, they needed more field engineers, more FSRs, contractors to support the equipment in the field, and I was the maintenance chief at the unit on that equipment, the HIMARS, and it was an easy jump over. So why'd you ask me that? What am I talking about? See what I mean?
No, just because like there's so many different components of
Oh yeah, yeah,
skills that you're having to plug into this
yes,
one project.
yeah. Because I'm definitely not. I high school was a good 5 years, right? That's how my high school career went. And I'm not formally educated on anything other than going to the military and, learning electronics and optics and performing that job. And then later applying those skills to missile guidance systems and getting the job with Lockheed Martin. But I'm not, my training came from the military versus like having some kind of engineering degree. But then again, what's a piece of paper if I can do it anyways? So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you sound like somebody who definitely would not be a big fan of Lockheed Martin, given that
so
you love freedom and sovereignty,
that's
but
That's why
life
I'm
goes
not
full
there
circle.
anymore. Right?
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
was very much a moral decision to remove myself from the entire machine because yeah, I mean once you get a big enough peeker behind the curtain or you just gain enough data through other means or whatever, you got I couldn't be a part of it anymore, and I was honestly leaving and deploying more often as a contractor than I did as an active duty Marine. It was a lot. It was back to back, and that takes a toll on a relationship because you're gone all the time. We've always been good, but I didn't want to put her through that any longer. And
Sure.
the opportunity came up to come back home and take an easy gig that I knew I could learn and do. And then I just find myself a couple years later where we've acquired the big house, the nice cars, the Raptor, the Tesla, the 5,000 square feet of house that I can't maintain. More of an asset play than practical, but and it's worked, right? It has. They print more money and it goes somewhere, and this is still one of the places where it's going, but I would like to unload this. I'm not having a life experience anymore. I'm just getting up, getting on the
Yeah.
hamster wheel, wearing myself out, trying my damnedest to squeeze in some of my crazy hobby, and you know it's so much. And now I'm building a bus while I'm still doing it all. It's absolutely crazy. I'm perpetually exhausted.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have that like realization at some point. Like a man just wants to move off grid and fucking build shit
That's
with his
it.
own hands and like have something to show for it.
Yeah.
I was having that conversation recently and with another guest on the podcast, and then I've been talking with Tyler and Antoine, and those guys. They have so much expertise, and all of us are all. That's the goal for all of us is we want something that we build and that's ours, and yeah, like I'm, you realize one day you wake up and you're like, I'm just paying for all this shit that doesn't really give me much of any, happiness, any joy. And, it's more and more expensive every year to live comfortable, but it's not exciting. And the purchasing power of your money is going down, and your time and energy at its essence is being devalued and debased. And so how do you reclaim that? And you can't do it from within a broken system. You have to step outside of that broken system, right? So um that's the dream that we all have. And though I love the way that you're doing it. I've from very early on been a big admirer of your work and your page, and it's just cool to talk about it with you one on one now, and share this because so many people are going to be listening, and they're going to have their own vision for how they can do something similar. Maybe it's not a school bus, maybe it's not a homestead, but it's something that gives them freedom and joy, and instead of just like you said, wake up, go through the motions, and then get up, you're tired, you just do it all over again.
That's exactly it. And, you know, adopting Bitcoin as a savings will help everyone, right? It'll help them get off the hamster wheel or enable them to be a little more financially independent, to make some different decisions in conjunction with and maybe retire a little earlier, step back and do something they enjoy instead for work, because they don't have to rely on the income and they can
Yeah.
actually pursue. That's what I mean. We may see I hope we fucking see a renaissance. Honestly, I hope that this
Yeah.
brings on a renaissance, that we get over the prompt bubble over the next few years and real art returns, and people can focus on craft because they're not, nose to the grindstone to hold an ice cube. Yeah, in general, I'm having a lot of problems with society right now. And I hurt deeply for, you know, people all over the world that are still under bombs. And we've got to figure this out faster than what we are, is how I feel. I feel a sense of urgency because war is still very affordable. And I mean, this may be one of our only chances to take that monetary tool away from them, that they can just, make that money. They can just do whatever they want, just print ad infinitum and just, I don't know. We need to get hash into homes, and that was one of my goals with all this craziness around me, Slim 19 and Stealth Miner. I'm trying to just solve problems for myself, but if I can share them now, I'm sharing them, versus, I did want to pursue it as a business, but things changed radically, and now I who's gonna run that business? How am I gonna compete with an Avalon Q? Like there's it's it. So I have a new role to fulfill by my own definition, right? This is in my own head. Let me just disseminate the tools that I'm
Yeah,
solve
given the way that
creating
you're
here. Yeah. I,
given the way that you're talking just there in that last bit about the way that the problems in the world, and the way that you hurt when you think about these things deeply, which I'm right there with you. um i think it's I think it's really a generous act to mankind if we want to make it better, and you've created the tools, like you have some things there, and now you've open sourced them and you're making them available. That's going to do more good than having a business based on those things. Right. Ultimately, that's going to help more people to have
I think so.
access to those files, to be able to build it out. Right. Because, like you said, you can't mass produce this. You can
Right.
only, I mean, you're one person. So put this, I mean, it's like Satoshi, right? He put Bitcoin out into the world. He gave us what we needed and he walked away. Right. So you're
He
doing a
gave a
very similar
guide though,
thing.
right? He gave a white paper. I have yet to make a guide, and
Well, once the
IX is
bus is
working on
done,
one, and Montani did one. So there's a couple out there, but like, yeah, that's what I hope, right? I hope that when I remove myself from the need to go to this W-2 to support all of this stuff I don't need, that I can focus more on just solving whatever problems I can and sharing them. I mean, that's probably going to be the framework for me moving on here on out. I'm just going to try to continue to solve all the problems I can
yeah.
for home mining, just because I like to tinker, and I'm solving them for me. But yeah, I
But if you
just
remove this overhead from your life, and you sell all this excess that you don't feel like you need in your life anymore, and you're on the road and you're looking for property and you're mining Bitcoin at the same time, I think it really goes back to like what you're just talking about. Like, I hope we see a renaissance, and that's been the word and the sort of train of thought that I've been really attached to recently as well, which is people need to be free to pursue their either their God-given talents or what they're passionate and interested and skilled in, because that is not what happens in the world anymore, right? It's
no.
either basic survival, whether that's born into a slum in, a third world country, or you're going to a W-2 that, you work 50, 60 hours a week and it sucks the life out of you or whatever. Those are still horrible forms of slavery on both ends, right? Just
Agreed.
it's the
Good
same
word. I
thing.
agree. Yep.
Yeah. And so because of that, the world has been robbed of, philosophers and creators and builders. And I mean, look, just the architecture is a great example of that. You have things built in the 14th, 15th, 16th century that is absolutely magnificent, beautiful stuff that inspires you, and the energy, like when you go there, you feel it, you see it, you're inspired. Life is fucking beautiful. But when you go into modern day things, it's just dry, dead, empty, no, you know what I mean? No spirit to it at all. And so I think that those things are symptoms of the world that we're living in, versus the world that we could be living in. And I'm very hopeful that this renaissance that we could be on the cusp of is going to be unlocked by Bitcoin. I mean, this is, like you said, the best shot we have is Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, and the ethos at the heart of it and the thought process that come with it, to have a revolution and a renaissance and a revitalization of values.
Yeah, that would. Yes, and it does. There's a lot of potential. I think we could see something like that. Who knows? I certainly don't, but yeah, I'm 100% with you on, the brutalism architecture and walking into a fluorescent building and our public schools look the same and run the same as prisons. And even if you're, pursuing a nomadic life, there's a million off the shelf white boxes on chassis that you can buy that are cheaply made and look like shit. We want to build something cool. We want to build something beautiful. We want, so, take a yellow metal canvas and then just go for it.
That's awesome. So in the bus, you're going to have everything you need to live, from kitchen to beds to, yeah,
Yes, yeah. So it's going to be
everything's going to be on board.
100% registered as an RV, and in the state I'm in, you have to meet 6 of 10 checklist criteria, and that's, you have to be able to be fully self-contained, and that does include bathroom, running water, climate control, a bed, different. I don't know the exact list to cite it right now, but I know that when I looked at the list, I'm going to have all of it. So I didn't even need to like log or store the information. But yeah, it's going to be fully registered as an RV, and we will be fully self-contained. Like I said, this is a self-sovereign vehicle. I'm not buying this to go stay at a bunch of expensive campgrounds because I need hookups and sewer and all this other. No, I am building a sovereign home. It just happens to be on wheels. This is, my sovereign stack at its most inclusive is going to be that I can take my home and go anywhere I want. And so yes, we are going to have here's the goal, right? Because we're doing the paint right now, and we've chosen our color, and it's going to be a ultra flat, non-reflective olive drab green, so I got to go with my military. You know, we both love that military vehicle look, so it's going to be that on the outside with black accents, all rhino linered. But as soon as you step into it, we're hoping it feel well. We're not hoping. We're going to make it feel like you're stepping into a cabin, a home. Everything's going to be there: couch, TV, sound system, water, utilities. We're actually even going to have 2 refrigerators on there because we found this awesome cheap 7 cubic foot stand up freezer, and it has a dial and you can turn it into a refrigerator, and you can flip the door orientation. So I'm going to put 2 of those next to each other and have a massive, it's going to be you know, the biggest refrigerator probably on any schoolie build ever. But um you know, we're not going to be short of any amenities. I'm going to have several ways to make heat. We all know that, you know, mining is going to be one of them. But if I don't want to burn the electric because I'm up in Alaska and we haven't gotten sun for 3 days, you know, it's going to have a wood oven on there. So it's going to have a little wood oven. And I do plan on having a diesel heater that will actually be getting installed this winter so that we have heat while we're working outside in the winter on it this winter. Because once we're done painting at around Thanksgiving, we're working our way internal because we have solidified the outside, made it waterproof. Now we can start building internally and not worry about all that. But yeah, it's going to be a very comfortable home.
Yeah, this is the coolest project in Bitcoin mining, for sure. Like, yeah, from day one, I've loved this, and just hearing how like life affirming or freedom oriented this whole thing is, that you're going to have everything you need and want in this, and you can go travel the country and find the piece of property that speaks to your guys' heart, and then you can park on there when you buy it and then start your build out, and you have everything you need to be comfortable. You're not
Yes.
like you said, going to these campgrounds, and you know, it's just very incredible. And then the whole time you're doing that, you're stacking sats along the way. So
From the fucking
incredible.
sun. How crazy is that? Like I'm still, it's still just one of the coolest things to me. And you know, I don't know how it's not so intriguing to more people. And I do understand why. It's probably the reason why a lot of people don't get into home mining, because they believe the myths that it's too expensive, you can't do it, and don't even fucking bring up ROI. I hate that. I don't want to hear anything about an ROI because I'm not thinking about an ROI. I am building a sovereign stack and I'm monetizing the excess production from that stack and getting heat from it at the same time. Like that's just it's the only way to do it in my book. When you put all the tools together, and we're here, we're talking about it. This is the group. So, but it just amazes me how I tweeted. That's why I posted that, because it still amazes me how early we are. I thought I was late when I
Yeah.
entered, and and it's
No,
wild to me. Which
super early still. Yeah.
yeah, and that coincided, by the way, right? So my my Bitcoin stacking and my exiting the military industrial complex all happened in the same year. Very nicely. It just worked out that way. But that's, you know, I never thought about that until just now in this conversation, that those happened in the same year. That was all the same time frame. But you know, on my first pass, I was the same as a lot of people. I walked the same journey of Bitcoin was why I entered. It's why it was the first asset I ever bought. But then I started learning stuff, and then I thought I was smart, and you know, there's better tech out there, and it's 2017, so
Yeah.
you know, it was a lot of shit coining going on. That was the first of it. That was the explosion of it. And you know, so I spent um that following bear market just truly evaluating what I bought, why I bought it, what I was holding, and it lined up with right around the 2020 time frame is when we started really looking at, like, what are we going to do later for retirement? Where do we want to go? We know we want to build an earth ship or do something wild like that, but we want to do it north, maybe Maine. And you know, it happened right around the same time that I turned full maxi, you know, 2020 time frame.
Yep.
And it's just it's been you can never look back and say what if, coulda, shoulda, woulda. You just got to take the opportunities that you have and go from there when it comes to stacking. But that's
So
I,
what because I know you're not a fan of like rehashing your origin story and things like that, but I'm glad you took it where you just took it, because that was one of my curiosities, was sort of how that lined up for you timing wise, and also like I'm always curious what it was for people that made it all click. You know what I mean? Or
right.
what, like, you said you got Bitcoin first. So I mean, you knocked it out of the park, right? Most people skip over Bitcoin and they buy shit coins first. And then they start to realize, scam, Ponzi,
Yeah.
the whole deal. And then it's like they have that come to Jesus moment where it's like, okay, fine, Bitcoin, I was wrong, you were right. The maxis were right. And you had it right the first time, and then you got a little, you deviated a little bit. Was there something that?
Good thing is it was, we're talking a portion, right? Like just
Sure.
a little bit, but at one point in time, I could have had a lot more Bitcoin if I, what
So
I mean.
what made you realize? What made you realize? Like, was it were you studying Bitcoin more in depth, and you went, oh, this is something extremely unique, and why did it stand out to you as something different from everything else, and
It's
what
a good
you needed
question.
as a
Yeah.
sovereign individual?
It was, and it was because it happened all around the same time frame that we were looking at the fire movement and trying to figure out how are we going to afford to retire. And so at that point in time, we had bought this house in 2018, and we overshot it. We swung for the fences because it was an asset play, as well as cool. We have plenty of room to run a salon out of the front of the house and achieve our dreams and goals that we had at the time, right? Based on the information available to us and what we thought we wanted. But, you know, we sat down and you have to what that fire movement, they missed the tool, right? They missed the tool.
Yes.
So when you look at that movement or that group think or whatever you want to call it, it's about analyzing a basket of assets and what's going to perform, what's going to always relatively be a safe haven of performance. And we were analyzing the basket of assets. And, that's when it was like, well, this one is about to start moving again. And that's right around when Saylor busted on the scene and started doing his thing. And that's when I saw institutions, when I saw the institutional interest that paired with us analyzing our finances and assets, paired with already having had both Bitcoin and shitcoins. I mean, that was just the perfect marriage, and it was an easy flip of the switch. It was like, well, yeah, and there's shit, this one, and that's when I brought uh, my wife into the fold, right? That's when I was like, okay, well, I've been studying this thing. I know a little bit about it, but let's learn some more together. And we just sat down and just go YouTube, man. Like just there's so much information out there. So we just started going through documentary after documentary after documentary, hours upon hours of just watching documentaries together. And then
Nice.
what was really fun is not only did I grow in my knowledge of the asset, it was fun to watch her go through her learning experiences and for the light bulbs and epiphanies to be on her face at certain moments. So really fucking cool you know have to do this journey with her, for her to express the interest to learn and actually absorb it. And now you know she runs a salon. You think she's not telling people? Like,
I
yeah,
bet she
no,
I bet she accepts Bitcoin at that salon too.
but that's the problem.
Yeah, of course. No one's
No one knows what we're talking about. It's crazy. How are we this early? That's why I'm just still baffled. It doesn't make any sense to me. When
there's
you
a lot
have
of
with
jealous men
all
listening right now that you got to do all of that. to do
We
all
have
of that with your wife, and she asked to do it as well, and like listened and got into it with you. A lot of jealous guys, but guys, just keep searching. There's got to be a few more female plebs out there.
she's fun. She's awesome.
That's
There's no doubt
badass.
about
Yeah,
that.
that's it's funny that you mentioned fire because that's also what got me into Bitcoin.
No
Funny
shit.
enough.
Nice.
Yeah, it's something I don't think I've ever talked about it on the podcast, but I mean, whenever friends or, people that I've met on here do ask me, what was it for you? It was that fire movement and like Mr. Money Mustache. I don't know if you know that guy, but he was one of the big
I don't.
fire guys, but he had a blog or like 20, I want to say 2013,
Oh, I
2015,
know.
somewhere
Yes,
in
I know
there.
who you're
And,
talking about. Yes.
I started trying to learn about all of that stuff. Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of those guys, they hate Bitcoin. Like they
They
fucking like
absolutely loathe it.
they
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 just
despise it. Isn't it weird?
are they
They're
not looking at the same charts we're looking at? That's what I don't understand. We now have what, 16 years, 15 years of data. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's the nascent years of the technology, but it doesn't matter. When you look at, just go to casebitcoin.com. How, the chart is right there. You look at the history, you look at the numbers, you look at the assets, and one is the clear winner. I
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know how they're missing it.
strange. Yeah,
Um,
they don't only miss it, they, like you said, they despise it. And that was very
that's
puzzling.
pre-installed bias, right? That's propaganda that they've been fed and lapped up. It's what it is.
Yeah, and just now you're starting to see some of these guys on Twitter that are finance bros and gold bugs and all these other like finance niches. And there was one on there that he shit talked Bitcoin for years and just recently started buying it and saying, okay, I was wrong. And it's like, okay, let's go. So that's, it just really goes to show you these people that are quote financially literate where the average person is not, and they still skipped right over this thing, or they said it was garbage and it was terrible. Wait until they discover mining, wait until they discover the tech behind Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining and the sovereignty, the energy, that it's perfectly sound money and it plays within the rules of the universe and maximizes on thermodynamics and physics and energy and all these things.
That's exactly it. So how do you explain the magic sauce that is the combination of, immutable technologies and encryption with thermodynamics, with real world energy? How it's a heavily nuanced topic that spans multiple areas of discipline. How do you explain that to people? How do you explain that to new people? Right? I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not the account for that. You want to see someone put S19s in plastic, I'll do it, but I'm not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a paradigm shift, right? It's like it completely upends your world and your understanding of money and a bunch of other subjects. And that's one of the best parts of it, right? You can come at this from a number go up technology where, that's something that you and I have left behind a long time ago. Like, yeah, we know the number goes up. That's great. We don't really care. We care about borderless, permissionless, censorship resistance, these kinds of things. And you don't get that with anything else. And so, wherever you come to Bitcoin, that's fine, but come to Bitcoin, right? And
Right.
learn what it has to teach you and show you. And yeah, it's hard to encapsulate it into like one thing that you can teach because it's so dynamic and so unique. It's a living organism, more or less, for lack of a better term.
It is. It absolutely is, because it's an organism of us. So it absolutely is. It has its defenses, as we all know, when the community eats itself over topics. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it is absolutely a living thing because it is us, and it's us taking the power back when it comes to the money. Hopefully, right? We got to
Yeah,
keep
and that's
working.
something I noticed that like it attracts a certain kind of person, and like altcoiners, they don't care about freedom and sovereignty. They care about how much
Fiat
their shitcoin can
gains.
go up so they can get more fiat out of it. And eventually they're just going to gamble that fiat away in something else anyways, right? Whereas we're talking about building circular economies, homesteading, feeding ourselves, energy abundance, and energy sovereignty. I mean, these are vastly different things, and very little of it is focused on number goes up if you're, doing it right, in my opinion. So it's yeah, two very different things, man. So do you have plans for? You said Maine, but are there other locations that you're scouting out that you're thinking to build on?
Well, we know that we want to go north. Um, hate hot, humid summers, and that's where here on the northeast coast, the summers are just gross because they're humid and hot. And we know that we went and visited Maine and absolutely fell in love with the area. So, that's been our target. But the target, has been adjusting a little bit. And now we know that we're going to have a few years of, nomadic experience. And we're going to go use that opportunity to scout out, is Maine what we want? We may enter Wyoming or Montana and say, whoa, this
Yeah.
is what we wanted. So, it's a good opportunity to work on myself specifically. I've endured more than enough trauma throughout my life, and this is the time. I'm early 40s. I'm 43, so this is the time when some of that starts creeping back up. And if I don't take a fucking breath from survival, dollar wise, right? Because we swung big with the assets we did, and it was great. It was affordable at the time, but just as you said, as we all know now, 2020 and after, the printer went, and so did the cost of living, and that makes you reevaluate a lot of things. And for us, it was an entire reevaluation of what we want. But yeah, we may get out on the road and love it so much that it's an indefinite thing. We have no idea, but the goal, the immediate goal, is to get it done, be self-sufficient,
Yeah.
so that we can exit the workforce, have some human experience, have some time to look inward and work on the things I need to work on, and
With all
heal.
that pressure removed, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
exactly. With all that pressure and shit off of your heart, off of your spirit, off of your head, basically no bills or little bills, self-sustainability and freedom to travel and roam around. I mean, that alone is going to be a very rich healing experience and joy-filled experience. I moved countries, and I was miserable living in Canada, and now I live in Mexico, and I'm building my dream here, and you know, yeah, I couldn't take another day in Canada. It was, locked
right.
down, can't do anything. Government's telling you, don't stand within a few feet of other people and wear this diaper on your face, and all of these restrictions on your freedom, and you're, trying to tell you how to think, and all these other things. And for people like you and I, that's just not something that we can really get on board with. And so I just left, and I left with a backpack and a suit, one carry on, and 4 years
That's
later, I have not
amazing.
gone back, and I'm still here, and I'm building a life. And the next step is to build that homestead where all of this same things can happen. But so I know to a degree what you're talking about, right? That those hard feelings and trauma builds up, and it's just go go go, and there's that constant weight. And what have you really gotten out of life? And you look down the line, I don't think Social Security and retirement
Mm,
funds and pensions and all this shit is even going to exist. The
right.
dollar is either not going to be the reserve currency. The world is shifting in such a way right now. I think we're in the very, very early innings of a complete global shakeup, if you will, where
It feels like
things are
that.
changing. Yeah. So we have to do what we can do ahead of time, knowing what we know about Bitcoin and the world, to just get ahead of it, right? Because a lot of people are living like you described. They feel that crunch, and they're just going to wake up one day and they're going to be 60, 70, 80. They can't go get those enriching experiences out in the world that you're talking about being able to go and do with this bus. And that's very sad, right? So, yeah, props to you for just waking up one day and saying, okay, whatever it takes, I'm grabbing it by the balls and we're going for it. And we're gonna squeeze every drop out of life. I really love that and identify with you.
Even if it is, it's just a middle finger to the system and to the rule set they gave me that I need to work till I'm 67, 70 years old. I don't like it. I don't agree. So, what do? We opt out. And that's what we're doing full on. We're opting out.
That's awesome. Do you have plans or a vision for if you do find land, what kind of a mining setup you'd want to run there?
Oh, absolutely.
Give me the goods. What are you
Okay,
thinking?
so yeah, I am infatuated with black diesel. Right, you can take discarded motor oils and restaurant seed oils, throw them through an algae centrifuge, clean it up, and then burn it. That
Yes.
is amazing to me because it goes towards more sustainability, as far as trying to step away from the consumerism and the disposal that we find ourselves, because consumerism needs disposal to go with it. They're hand in hand. It's the same machine. Um, so I most certainly want to get an old mechanical diesel and feed that thing used seed oils and let it burn some sats for me. Um, you know, if hydropower would be amazing, right? Like
Yeah.
finding land with some moving water would be that's dream. And the solar is the base, right? That's the tool that's going to take me there. So I will have that covered. Um, but yeah, no, I want to experiment with other forms. I maybe not wind, maybe to I don't know, but hydropower would be just too much fun.
That's the dream,
But
right? Yeah, your
yeah,
own river, roll your own stream, and you harness that energy and run miners.
I mean, it's just like it's there, it's making energy, and you can extract it. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it gives me chills. That's my dream as well. Yeah, and like you said, I think you put that really poignantly. Is like the solar is the base. It's going to get us there. It's going to be like the ground floor. But if
Mhm.
you can get biodiesel or the river, the hydroelectric, I mean, you're living the ultimate self-sovereign dream. I mean, that's on your property. Nobody can take that away from you. You can use it to mine the hardest money mankind has ever known. Uh, I can't think of anything more exciting than that, and you can just build on it from there.
Have you seen that chart recently of electricity prices after 2020 and how they just go
No.
they spike up? So I think well, before I even start doing numbers, I didn't look at it to verify, but if I recall correctly, my memory sucks. It was like something 14 cents a kilowatt hour was the national average, and now it's something like 20. And this is in the last 5 years. So does monetary debasement play into that? Of course, but are there other factors like data centers, eating up all the
Yes.
electricity first and being the better customer because they can certainly pay, and in volume? Um, when you're connected to the grid, even if you have solar connected to the grid connected solar is 100% a complete fiat scam. Um, because not only are you getting overcharged for the installation and the equipment and whatever else along with that, but you're connected to an authority that can take advantage of you whenever they choose. Not pay you out, pay you less. Maybe you'll fight them. They're hoping you won't. Most won't. So, I want if I'm the solar needs to be disconnected from the grid to call it a sovereign thing in my book, and that's a distinction I think is important. Um, but
No, that's good because actually was just talking with Tyler Stevens about his, experiences and thoughts about solar and, what the best ways to go are. And, there's if it's not ideological, then there's kind of benefits to the other way. But if you have any ideology around it, it's like what I want to do is off grid solar mining, right? Like I don't
yeah,
I don't want you don't want to introduce that central authority. The whole point is to
Right.
get away from it, right? So
Exactly it.
why reintroduce a central authority that you have to pander to be beholden to? The whole point is to move away from that. So I'm right there with you on that. And yeah, the more ways that we can do that, the better, because we know energy is abundant in the universe. It's in and on Earth. It's just harvesting it and utilizing it freely for your own needs.
And then,
Because yeah, they can make the prices whatever they want, and
yes,
if you want heat in your home, you pay it. If you want, all this stuff to function the way you're used to it for a comfortable life, you find a way to pay it. But that doesn't mean it's right.
exactly. Yep. And energy is certainly abundant, absolutely. And um, transport might be harder than the harvesting, right? Like that's why Bitcoin mining attaches is so beautiful, and attaches itself to all these industries that have waste energy that is, you know, out in the boondocks, because you can't transport it. And I think that's the problem with a lot of the way people have tried to do solar up until this point, is you're trying to power a city with it from a central point, which means you got to transport it, you got to support a base load, you got to be able to curtail, or demand use response, or whatever it is that is above my head to talk too clearly about it, but I get the gist. um you got to if you're building a sovereign stack, you got to truly analyze all of it, and is it sovereign, or am I just kind of like faking it and getting a cheaper electricity bill? But in a lot of cases, people are not going to have the option, and grid connected solar is better than no solar, for sure.
Yeah.
Are you going to have to fight the utility company on your rates, or your points back, or whatever it is? Yes, likely. But it's better than not doing anything. It's definite first step, and most people are not going to have an option if they have kids and school and a house and work, and they're not moving. That's their family, whatever it is. So, but I don't want to put out the impression that if you're grid connected solar, you're doing it wrong. No, you're absolutely in the correct, you're moving the correct way.
You're
You
in the
took
right
the
realm.
power to the local level at least, and have your own solar on your roof, instead of requiring someone to transport it to you. You're just stuck to someone siphoning it and controlling it. That's all.
Absolutely. And do you know of many people or anyone specifically that is using biodiesel, biofuel for
I
for
don't, not
mining? No.
personally. Yeah, not in real life. I don't know any cool people in real life. I'm surrounded by NPCs that just don't get anything. So
Do you
that
know
it's
anyone online though, or you haven't heard of anyone doing this? Because so far, I also have not heard of anybody
not.
really doing this
Yes.
yet.
Okay. There. Um. Think of his name. There is. I've seen pictures of it. It's not even the original person posting it. It was being posted by someone else, and I can't think of the account right now, naturally, right? Because I need to call it to the front. But I've seen one picture one time of someone with a black diesel setup where they were cleaning oils and using it to mine Bitcoin.
Uh
And
huh.
like, I mean, it tickled my brain so beautifully, and I wish that person was actually posting about it. That would be cool. But this was like
Is
someone
this
was
the one in
posting.
Africa?
No, this is here in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time recalling who it
No,
was
that's
that
that's
posted
all
it.
good, but I think yeah, the curiosity is more around like this isn't a plentiful thing yet. It's not. I mean, solar is the most popular of these kind of guerrilla methods, but the biodiesel, the black diesel, I think in the future that's really going to catch on. But right now that's sort of an untouched area that there's not a lot of expertise in for people to like go and learn about.
Right, and there are a lot of Bitcoin miners working in the dark. They're not posting on X. They're just building stuff. I found a new YouTube video today of someone who's been solar mining for a while now and has no presence on social media. No, so there's absolutely awesome people out there doing the things. They're just not posting about it.
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
part of why I have had such a blast sharing my tinkering on my account. Really, because first and foremost, it was something that intrigued me, that I was fascinated by, that I wanted to play with. Um, and I was able to share it as I went along, and other people were interested, and it just kind of grew into, well, let's make stuff. So that's been truly awesome. I love the journey that I've gone down. Um, I wish more people were sharing what they were doing, right? Because there are some amazing builders out there doing some really cool stuff, but they're just, they're they're not the
Yep.
social
Some people
presence. They're not
just
trying to fill that role.
Some people just want to build and they just want to be left alone, and I
Yep.
completely understand and respect it. However, I hope it gets out into the wild more so that we can learn from it and iterate on it. And right, that's the beauty of open source mining and open source hardware and software, is that we can take that and build upon it. And one great thinker or builder puts something out there, and then somebody else from a different viewpoint comes along or different skill set, and they grab that and they iterate on it. And I mean, that's the stuff that those are the weapons that are going to cause the revolution, really, right? Like it's going to be caused by people that are building, putting things out open source, and then other people come along and build on top of that. And I think Bitcoin is that base layer for all of that, and then all the stuff that we're talking about with Mujina and Ember One and all the stuff
I'm
from the
so excited.
256 Foundation. Yep, it's really going to be, those are going to be our weapons in the fight for sovereignty, and we just need more of it. So if you, by some chance, are listening to this and you're a pleb out there that's building something and you're in the shadows, please, I mean, share it. Be anonymous, whatever you need to do, but share, get it out there so that we can see it, we can
Make your PFP
learn
a
from it.
stupid bus picture and just start posting stuff, right?
Bust with laser eyes, yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, no, please do share, because we need it. We need those tools. We need those weapons, and uh, you were kind enough to do all of that at this point and put out all your learnings in open source format. And I think that's going to be a work that lives very long time and inspires a lot of people. Yeah, your builds are amazing too. Not only are you doing great things with them, they look really sleek and really clean, and I love the way
I
that they look.
appreciate that. Aesthetics are important to me. It's something I think about when I'm creating these things, for sure.
You can really tell that yeah, that matters to you, because a lot of people can, hack around with things, but there's not a lot of attention paid to that kind of a detail, the aesthetic. But given the statements earlier about the Renaissance man kind of stuff, it doesn't surprise me that aesthetics are important to you, and you can really tell it's really reflected in the way that you build. So glad to see that and to know that. Yeah, what else was I going to ask you? Um, Drawing a bit of a blank here.
Well, the stealth miner and the Slim 19. We can touch on them real quick because someone may be watching this and they don't follow my account. They don't know what I'm building. Um, so and I think I finally got it down to the purpose that the two serve, and I like calling it what they are. I'm calling the stealth miner the um the most versatile retrofit, and I'm calling the Slim 19 the most compact retrofit. Both were created with the idea of, okay, we have these large mining operations that are commercial. They're dollar seekers because they got to pay in those other currencies or whatever it's going on. They're going to be rotating machines a lot, to always, because they have to put the most efficient recent hardware on the shelf, or they lose their edge, because there is no other edge in that model of mining. That's why we are going to inherit the earth as pleb
That's
miners,
good for
because
us. Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what the hash price is. It's not a thought. It's not something I ever look at. I still look at price because it's fun, right? And it's on my home screen. I can't avoid it because I put it there. But I'm not concerned. I'm just running them when I need heat. When I need to dry some filament, heat my home in the winter, whatever it is, if I need some heat, I know where I'm going to go for it, because I can double spend my energy that I'm paying for. Um, but I want the stealth miner to be versatile, and that's what it's turned into. Because as people come to me with, oh hey, can there be a filter on it? Can I hook this up to an 8-inch exhaust? What if what if you can drive filament with it? Can we or I'm having ideas and adding stuff. The stealth miner has gone through so many revisions, and I've added all this stuff, a HEPA filter and an 8-inch heat extractor. And that behind me, actually, I don't know if it's in frame, but is
Yep.
yeah, that's the filament dryer that I haven't tested it yet. Time, right? Like, where's the time? I have so many cool projects that I want to do that are time prohibitive. But the stealth miner, I want it to be that functional piece of kit that you can use for many heat reuse projects around the home, recycling this e-waste or hardware that's going to be dumped, and so it puts it into, not only are you helping, rehome that old equipment and keeping some e-waste out of somewhere, um, you're also starting to build your sovereign stack a little bit more, beyond maybe a lotto miner that you got, or, you're starting, now you can you have enough wattage to dive into heating a room with this device. And the Slim 19, I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I'm preaching, I want to recycle these components, but then I'm casting aside this aluminum shell, which can easily be, sold and melted down. That's not an issue. That's easy to recycle. But the point was, can I squeeze everything in the case? It was part of just FAFO. I just wanted to see if I could do it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what what do you where did you start to learn how to like retrofit all of these things, and really, like, did you just grab an old miner and just start ripping it apart
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then retrofitting? Yeah.
Yeah. So I started with, the entry point, because 120 volt, an S9. That was the first miner I ever plugged in October of 2021. And I, yeah, immediately dumped it into my central heat, because that was my entry point into mining. I touched earlier on, they believe the myths. I believed the myths. I thought that I could not mine Bitcoin at home. It required specialized equipment, tons of
Yeah. Yeah.
power, and the electricity's too expensive. And some of the myths were true. It require, yes, you need a 240 volt hookup to hook up this commercial machine, and it's going to be ridiculously loud and not for the home environment. So, I immediately started looking at, what are people doing? Is anybody doing anything with this? How can we sound attenuate? How can we make this better? How can we, I want to get into firmware. I want to play with settings, and I want to change the wattage. These are the things I want to do. I want to experiment with my equipment. So it really was just that. It was acquiring an S9, cutting a 6-inch hole into my return, and then just playing with it, installing brains, and, playing with aftermarket firmware, and getting out of the turn it on and it does one thing, but
Uh-huh.
turn it on and now you can tweak it to do what you want to do. And then we're talking no more than 6 months later, and that's when Zach Bompsta dropped, the Loki kit on the world, and that I lit a fire. Right, I was I was so intrigued that, okay, now I can take the more efficient one that I thought I couldn't have. Well, by then I bought the S19, and 2 months later I had the S9, and then 2 months later I had S19s plugged in. I ran a, sub panel and everything. It didn't take long for me to escalate that. But when he dropped that, that's when I got real curious. I'm like, okay, well, what can we do with these?
Yeah.
There was one day the first day that I took one out of the actual extruded aluminum enclosure, and I just strapped a 10-inch 12-volt radiator fan to the side, to the top sink, and had it sitting on my workbench, no enclosure or anything, and just plugged it in. That was, that was the moment when I started, that was the moment. That was the breaking point. That's when it just kind of, I went full into it. As soon as I found out that, oh, okay, I can extract air a little bit differently than it's done across the board. Um, So let's start playing with form factor. I want to at that, I want to. How can we make this portable? How can we sound attenuate it and use this combination of other technologies to run it off 120 volt? So I didn't walk into it with any specific goal in mind. It truly was just me having fun. And then
Yeah,
it garnered interest, and other people showed it, and that only got me going more. Right? I was like, yeah,
sure.
can I do that? Let me try that.
Yeah, they really have taken kind of the home mining world kind of by storm. And again, it's one of those things that was built on the shoulders of something else great that came out with the Loki board, right? And so that unlocked all these new possibilities for people at home that wanted to mine Bitcoin, and for people like you to build better versions of this closed source device, right? Like you basically unlocked it, and
Or break it free. Yeah, break it
yeah,
free
you
from
broke it
its
free.
chains and see what we can do with it.
Hell yeah, right? That's the spirit of home mining and pleb mining, and they don't want you to do that, and you did it anyways, and something really beautiful has come out of that with what you've built, and so that's is something that we should all be very grateful for and respectful of, and so thank you for your service in that regard as well, because I think they're great. I really can't wait to get one myself. Think I'm gonna have it sent to my parents' house in Canada somewhere and let them run it because they have a use for heat. I don't really
Right.
have that in Mexico, but I want one here just because I really want it. You know what I mean? But there's really I don't need the heat. It's a desert here, but where I'm at. But
Well, a
just I
single
just want to
board
own
rig
one.
is perfect for a small solar setup, right? You could start just chipping away at the long term goals by buying a little bit of panel here and there.
Yeah,
Just build it out slowly. You can always do that.
that sounds good. How would you? Uh, Probably getting a bit selfish with this question now, but how would you go about like making these things resilient to like dust and things like that? So like really hot outside temperatures and dirt and dust kind of floating up
Right.
here in the desert. Like, would you? Is there any sort of enclosure that you could put the miner in itself that would keep it clean and keep it running well?
I don't think so. Other than okay, so the stealth miner enclosure now has a HEPA filter attachment. You can get 2 HEPA filters on Amazon that fit it. I designed it around a cheap, readily accessible HEPA filter on purpose, right? So that would keep the dust out of your equipment for sure. So that
Okay.
is an enclosure that would achieve what you're talking about. I was about to go start talking about, well, you need passive cooling and you need a completely IP68 enclosure so that no water does. Not necessarily. It seems like, if you want to just run a board and it's a very dirty environment, that a filter on the front would help.
Yeah.
Definitely. Maybe now I'm thinking I want to put one outside and run it for a few weeks and just see what it does to the filter and how long it takes before it's so restricted that you can't run. But I would enable advanced thermal management, right? So it would downclock itself as it starts to get clogged up.
Uh
The
huh.
chips would heat up, obviously, because of the reduced air, and then the miner would just step itself down accordingly. That, see, now you're giving me more ideas. But there you go. That might be a suitable one.
Yeah,
But
okay, we'll have to talk
waterproof,
later about
yeah,
that,
that's not gonna
and
happen.
see what we can come up with, but, yeah, I would love to I mean, it's just I'm abundant sunlight here, right, where I'm at now, so this isn't where
That's
the
why I'm saying
homestead.
solar. You gotta, if you haven't started yet, that's the goal. That's the building you need to. I would. That's where I would be. I would be starting to acquire cheap equipment when it goes on sale and slowly build it out. That's what I've been doing with this bus. I haven't. I've taken these first 2 years to just acquire the solar because that's one of the most expensive parts
Yes.
of these schoolie builds, or if you're going to be a boondocker, yeah, that's a huge. That's probably 20 to 30% of the cost of the entire build is just the solar. So we've taken this time while we're not paying for a lot of materials because we're not building inside. We're more deconstructing and fixing and painting the chassis and rust proofing and all this stuff. I've taken it to acquire that time to acquire the solar, and it has been slowly. It's been in chunks. I've only been buying the batteries when they go on sale, and acquiring. I'm now up to
Nice.
5, which is 1400 amp hour on 12 volt, which is more than double what most RVers have. Because I've way over provisioned this thing so that I can, I want to mine on the road. I'm not
Yeah.
going to not. So over provisioning was the move, but it also ensures, right? Over provisioning is not only because I want to mine Bitcoin, because I love it. It's also, what if I go far enough north and it's winter and we haven't seen sun in 3 days, or we have limited sun? I want to have so much panel in production that even on those days, I'm bringing in enough of a trickle to sustain my appliances and everything on board. So the over provisioning is not solely for Bitcoin mining. It's just another case of incentives aligning, and they
Yeah.
often do when it comes to what we're doing. Incentives often align, and they have naturally for me in this build up until now. So I'm enjoying that piece of it.
Yeah, anywhere where incentives can align is a good place to be focusing our attention, because why go against that, right? Like if you can
Yeah.
find things where they layer in nicely together, and like over provisioning is I think key in any setup, right? Like even if you were
Yes.
just strictly talking about Bitcoin miners and making sure you have an excess of solar stored in the batteries, or um enough wattage to run your device and then some, so that you can overclock and underclock and you can do whatever you can run it stock, whatever. um Having more is always better than not having enough, for sure, for damn sure, especially when it comes to the miners. But I mean, well, I guess especially when it comes to like your quality of life living in a bus, so
Yeah.
even more so. So
And it's very
that's cool.
digestible when you're spending, a couple $100 every month to acquire the next couple of panels or the next charge controller. It I can speak from experience that if you chip away at it like that, it doesn't take too long to have, to be able to run a board on solar.
Well, and thankfully, you have a bit of a luxury in that you have a long enough runway here, a long enough time horizon for
Yes.
getting this thing complete, that you can buy the batteries on sale. You can buy inverters when the newest model becomes an outdated model, for like it's not the newest greatest thing. Same with miners, right? As these things get phased out, they're not operational in these giant conglomerates that we're fighting against, really. You could just come in and scoop them up for pennies on the dollar. So you kind of are afforded that luxury of getting really good equipment at really good prices, because you're not hitting the road tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that was for our sanity, right? And purely budget. Because we anticipate our build to be anywhere in the ballpark of 40 to 50 grand when we're done with it. I don't have that kind of, I don't have that
Yeah.
kind of, I'm not selling any of my assets. So, I don't have that kind of income right now to support that build.
That's
And
not bad though. That whole build for that price. I mean,
yes,
I have
I couldn't do it all at
clients that
once.
I know, people that have $100,000 campers,
Dude, they pay so much money for them things. It's wild. $250,000 easy for some of the
and they ain't
RVs running
mining
around.
Bitcoin in there. Like,
Right,
like,
exactly. It's gonna be a little apocalyptic and military looking on the outside, but it'll be a nice little bougie interior on that thing. It's
that's
definitely
amazing.
gonna have so much character, and that's the point of it, is to like talked earlier, brutalism, get away from the lack of art, the lack of,
Yes.
uh, personality that we surround ourselves with.
Yeah, completely sovereign and completely custom to your liking. I can't wait to see the finished product. I know you can't. It must
Yeah, you're
drive
gonna
you
be bummed.
crazy knowing that it's a little bit in the future, and you've got to just take what's in front of you, one task at a time. That must be the hardest part, for sure. But hey, it'll all be worth it.
Yeah, spreading
So
out the
where do
expenses.
you
Yep.
where do you go for inspiration, for learning some of these technical things? Are there certain resources, or is it just talking with other people that are building? I know you mentioned 100 Acres Ranch. Is it just like kind of getting deep into the conversation with some of these people and just bouncing ideas back and
Yeah,
forth?
absolutely. And what I do when other people DM me and they're asked, they, throw a couple of questions my way, I happily answer them, because not only do, I'm a nerd and I love this shit and I love talking about it and I love to geek out with other people. Um, I'm just trying to share the experiences that I can, because it's super easy for me to say, oh yeah, and talk to you back, right? Share the information.
Yeah.
Um, but for myself, it's been that. It's been getting into, and for our topic, right? Everybody, it's Telegram heavy. You got all the home mining groups. That's where you're gonna find them. The home mining wizards group, the pleb miner group. There's a few of them now. Getting in there and asking questions in those formats in the Telegram and then DMs on X when I could. Not it's been mostly Telegram and YouTube though. But I'm addicted to YouTube University, because we literally have a catalog of humans sharing their experiences with the world, and you can just go flip through it and learn about an obscure topic. Like, if
Yeah.
I've watched, I think, every good schooly video on YouTube. I can't type in searches in YouTube for school bus conversion builds anymore and not find one that doesn't have the red bar across the bottom, because I already watched it. It's a little frustrating, because I still want to consume, more input on it, but I also have acquired everything I need to build my own and in my
Move
own
forward.
way.
Yeah.
But yeah, for mining specifically, it was very Telegram heavy, and getting on there and getting into those groups, because you jump in, you ask a question, you may not get an answer right away, but someone eventually will see it and pop in with an answer, and if they don't, you just ask again and someone will catch it. Um, but if anyone's listening to this and you have questions about home mining, if you DM me, I'm gonna answer. I may not answer right away. I got to filter through the spam, but I will always hit accept if it's a legit person and nerd out with you about it.
That is one of the most heartwarming things about this movement, is that it's not infected yet, hopefully never, with a bunch of pretentious assholes who don't want to share
Dude, the
information
heat
with you.
punk community is my
Yes, they're the
favorite,
best.
and I love how Tyler says niche of niche of niche, because he's absolutely right about that. But it's my favorite niche of niche of niche. Because
Yes.
everyone generally in the Bitcoin community um shows a elevated set of morals and understanding over non coin holders, I've noticed, but specifically in the heat
Heat
punk
punks. Yeah.
subsection of home mining of Bitcoin, of mining of Bitcoin, that is, the group is just sharing. I mean, we're all sharing our experiences with each other. So yeah, it's just
Yes.
been finding the community, finding the niche, and then speaking up and just being a part of it.
Yeah, it's my favorite, and like I said to Tyler the other day, it was like I have zero interest in HVAC or any of that kind of stuff before any of this, right?
Right.
It's only when you get into Bitcoin mining that that kind of stuff becomes fascinating, not just interesting, and it's it's good because it pulls you in, and it makes you learn things that you wouldn't otherwise be interested in, because it's going to help you further your goal. And you really do find in the heat punk space in particular, as you said, everybody's so open, so happy to share. There's no competition in that regard, right? Like
Everyone's
our
just trying to solve
competition,
problems.
yeah,
That's what it
problem
looks like.
solvers.
Yeah.
Yeah, our competition is the closed source proprietary mining empire that we're all, as home miners, as pleb miners, trying to take down, right?
Yep.
Or at
Exactly.
least revolt against.
I am stoked for some open source firmware so I can unlock the hardware even more.
So let's talk about that quickly. Like, what do you have up your sleeve? What's bouncing around in your brain pan in terms of what all this is going to unlock, and what you want to do with it?
Um,
Want to
well,
share any
just more
secrets?
fine-tuned control. Really, let alone the small things like, oh, I don't want to pay firmware dev fee or whatever it is, or I want to take, full, I don't want to rely on someone else's software. I want to see this thing that if I was smart enough to open the GitHub and read it, I could validate it. But what was the question?
Is there anything that like the open source firmware or the Ember want? Like, is there anything that
It's just
this is gonna unlock for you?
it's the heat reuse stuff. I think is the lowest hanging fruit that will be attacked first, because it gives us more control over the ability to command. I think, right? I mean, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it beyond the fact that I want the new tools so I can play with them and see what I can do. I don't have any
Right.
truly visionary stuff, but I know that personally, I am building out my sovereign stack as much as I can, from the home to the savings account to the node that I can verify my savings account with, to running home assistant and home servers and home
Yes.
media servers, so I can reduce my reliance on the cloud, or not rely entirely, right? I don't want to rely on cloud services in my vehicle. Even though I'm going to have Starlink, I don't want to rely on cloud services to run a light bulb or whatever, right? So home
Well, we just saw
assistant,
AWS go down
yeah,
the other
right,
day, and people's
exactly.
fridges and lights and shit stopped working. So
Some people's beds got stuck in upright
yeah.
positions, and then they find out that their beds were sending 28 gigs of data last month. Like, what? It's
What?
insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I deeply, deeply love technology and exploring it, but I am not enjoying how we've watched it over the last decade centralize in every aspect that it possibly can, because data has become the new oil and we are now all
Yes.
now products to them. So, it's time. I want to run my own cloud service. So I am going to run a server. I already have a Plex server with my own media library at home. I'm already running some things, but I'm about to consolidate them all, decommissioning the Raspberry Pi Umbrel core node. Already have decommissioned it, and transitioning to Proxmox with Plex, Home Assistant, Jellyfin, whatever I need, Node, all the stuff on one singular piece of hardware, because I need to consolidate for my mobile life. I need to rein in
Sure.
several pieces of hardware down to one unit, minimize my consumption and footprint of my, physical server. But the Home Assistant stuff, connecting it all with thermostat, Tyler that's his mission right now. And I love that. I love that he's running with it and that he's sharing, because I'm just getting into Home Assistant this winter, and I'm looking forward to just playing with the automations. There's already solutions out there that other people have built and you can run. Um, some of them require specific hardware or whatever. So I'm very, very looking forward to Home Assistant, because it's not only going to be just how I can do some automation with mining, but it's going to be the backbone of my smart bus. I want this thing. It's going to be kitted out with some cool shit. Any kind of automations I can do is going to be fun. But I think the open source firmware will just give us more knobs to turn.
Yeah.
Really, as a user of those tools that others are developing, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to more knobs.
Awesome. Yeah, it strikes me as we've ventured down all these different topics that you need like your own personal bard or like chronicler, so that you can just build shit and do it, and then somebody's like writing it all down as you're doing it.
Just
Because this
no
is so
job
good.
and let me cook all day. I would love that. There's so many rabbit holes I want to jump down, and I'm really truly looking forward to our time, when we go nomadic and remove ourselves from the need to be on the hamster wheel, to pursue more of these projects.
Yes.
And I
Write it
know that
all down for us,
yeah,
please.
I know the focus of the first year is going to be all in the automations. The first year I spend on that bus is going to be me working out all my systems, and getting and nerding out on Home Assistant in deep. Because right now I have it installed. I have an instance running. I brought a couple miners in using the Haas miner, which is way easier than I thought it was. So I encourage anyone, I don't care if you have a BitAxe, just go get some cheap hardware, $40 PC or whatever you can, put Home Assistant on it, install Hosminer, and just start playing with it. Because then at least you don't have to remember your IP. You can just go open Home Assistant. You got some knobs that you can turn.
So what would that do? So if you're running a bunch of BitAxes or NerdAxes or something at home, what would that Home Assistant be able to do with it? And what's the Hosminer do for those listening that don't know?
I don't know on the BitAxe thing. I said that without thought.
Just
but the Hosminer is Rowan and Schnitzel. They put together that software, and what it does is it automatically talks to all the miner IPs, and it doesn't automatically do, but you can, right? It has all those APIs built in, and they try to, include as much as they can. And so far, just hooking up a couple S19s was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be to get some knobs on there. But that's when you bring that information into Home Assistant, that's when you can also, you talk to Tyler, you can bring in other data points, you can bring in thermostats, and you can run automations based on the other information that you're bringing in from other, sources. So for BitAxe, I mean, that makes most sense on a heat reuse case, because you need to flip some levers now and again, or you need to control what's going on. To a certain extent, you could just dump heat and open windows. But if you want to get clever with it, there's a lot of clever shit you can do. You can get really wild with automations. That's what I look forward to messing with, because I don't think I'm gonna have enough time while I'm building a bus to truly explore that realm, other than just getting it up and operational. This winter, I do have a goal to, when I hook everything back into central heat here this weekend or next, because it's getting about that time. I want to hook them all up so that I can give my wife a iPad interface and say, here's the miners, and you hit this button to turn this one off, or this button to turn this one off. That's it. Because she does know how to go down and flip a breaker now, but it's still like a little intimidating. And understood, because I'm constantly moving shit around, so it's not always the same down there, because nothing's permanent. I'm just playing with stuff. That's the other thing. There's some very beautiful heat reuse setups out there where they get the good shrouds that mount to the wall, and they plumb it all in. It's beautiful, and it's perfectly aligned, and cable management. I love it. It tickles my absolute brain. But I'm not doing any of that, because I don't plan on staying here. So everything I'm doing in my basement is just cutting holes and dumping heat. That's it. That's simple. And it really is that simple. Yeah. But the Home Assistant she doesn't have to go down and worry about, am I hitting the right breaker because he moved the miner to a different outlet or changed something. I'm going to give her an interface. So there's the first thing. But with BitAxes, could just be fun. I don't even know if Hosminer talks to them, so I might be talking out of space.
I'm going to get Schnitzel on here and find out. That's the next task.
Right? I don't even know. I do have a BitAxe Touch, so I need to find out, because I'm not even sure but I just have fun with doing things, right? Even if there's no practical use, I just want to get under the hood and fuck around. I just want to, what can it do? Sure. What can I do with it? I just want to play. So I often explore without a set goal. And I'll say things like that. And then someone will ask me, well, what can you do? I don't know yet.
Yeah. So circling back to one of those, like key points with the Home Assistant is that I think this is going to unlock so much for the everyday person who's not maybe technical, or like Antoine from 256 Heat was telling me in one of our episodes that like he's installed these in apartment buildings, residential buildings, and he's put like heat sensor pucks in various parts of the setup. And like if the temperature reaches a certain thing, it will like talk to the sensor, and then it will downclock or overclock depending on what you need. If it drops low enough and it sets a sensor off, then they'll ramp up the wattage. And I mean that's amazing. And then the everyday person is going to love having that on their phone, on an app, or on their iPad, where it, like you said, it's just turn miner on, make it hotter.
even if
I
that's
don't
all
need as
you
much
do.
heat.
It's more
Exactly.
functionality than you had without it, right? And it's something to play with. And then it unlocks, then you walk through other doors and you have more to explore at that point in time. That's just how, that's always been my approach, is just pure curiosity and exploration without any true end goals in mind. I just want to play.
Yeah.
But when people give me ideas, that's when I do set some goals and develop some stuff. And I've had it's just been an absolute blast with the Stealth Miner and the Slim 19, but because I really have just been sharing what I've been building, and then people give me feedback, and it ramps me up more, and I keep going with it. I've already said that I'm going to stop messing with that stuff because I have a bus to build, and I'm still, filament dryers coming soon. I'll get it tested here in a couple weeks, I think.
Yeah, I hope you keep messing with it, because I think they are some of the greatest home mining products that exist, and I hope this episode helps expose your great work to more people. I'm sure most people that are listening to this do know of you and do know of all the great work that you do, but there is surely going to be some people that are discovering you for the first time through this. And I highly encourage you to go look at SatStackingPleb on X, and just read through the archives, scroll back through the tweets, and
The
see his
highlights
thought
tab, I
process.
actually did put some stuff on there. So if
Oh,
you're
good.
visiting my profile for the first time, go to the highlights tab, and it'll at least give you like an abbreviated view of my journey from when I first started cutting up an electrical box to retrofit a miner into, to the
Amazing.
where I'm at now and the other things.
This is going to be one of the greatest archives and like things to follow over time as the bus gets rolling, and as you build that earth ship. And just, I'm really looking forward to following you over the next 5 to 10 years, and watching this evolution. And I can't say that for many people. A lot of times it's, oh, that's, I follow this person on X, they do some cool stuff, but you're building a real legacy of great work that you're putting out into the world. And I guess maybe to wrap it up with that question in mind, is there any thought towards personal legacy in any of this work you're doing? Is there anything that you hope that this work that you're doing does, or is this just purely like your nerd brain, and you're just really enjoying, for your, is it all
Yeah,
personal gain?
I have no concerns for for any legacy, anything. Don't care. It is mostly just me having fun and sharing what I'm doing with everyone. And like I said, I did want to make it a business for a short moment, and then I realized that, all of the reasons why it doesn't make sense and it's just not practical. And that's when I made the decision to share what I've been doing and to just keep it open. That way, so what I owe everyone is a guide, because there's no guide for any of this. And there's a lot of Easter eggs hidden in the Stealth Miner, specifically as the one I've worked on the longest and the one I am dubbing, the most versatile retrofit that exists. So I need to stop talking about that and actually do that hopefully sometime soon. Um, but yeah, no, I'm not concerned about a legacy. I just want to share these tools that, I'm solving problems for myself. And it doesn't make any sense to hold it close to the chest. Just get it out there and let others play around with it and expand on it, do whatever they want. If someone wanted to make a business of building stealth miners, producing them and selling them, obviously I've given it away. That's do it. Like I said, war is not unaffordable yet. I still see death, destruction, murder, genocide. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I truly don't. And I think that this is our best chance of taking their power to endlessly create money for these wars away from them So we need to get adoption out there more. And I just want more curious people to have access to this if they want it, if they want to do it. So yeah, no, I don't care about a legacy. I just want to share, enjoy my time while I'm here, and then go fuck off for a while.
Well, in not caring directly about it, I think you're still have and will continue to create one of the most impressive bodies of work, and inspirational beacons of hope and sovereignty and freedom for people to look at. Not only with the slim builds and the stealth miner and everything like that, but the school bus and the mentality that you shared here today on the podcast. I know there's tons of pleb miners that are aligned with this kind of stuff that we've been talking about here, and I'm really happy that we didn't just talk about technical, Bitcoin
They do,
mining
yeah.
things. That we could talk about philosophy and about morality and ethics and all the stuff that really makes this special. It's not number go up; it's all the things surrounding it that make it so special. So, where can people find your open source files, your work, if they want to, buy your stuff that you've been building out? Is there a central place where you want people to go?
Just at SatStackingPleb on X is going to be your best start if you're trying to see what I'm doing or find what I'm doing. Um, I do have a storefront. It's structure.io, and the E on the end is actually a 3, but that's on my X profile. That's what I'm saying. That's the best place to go because that'll branch you off. But my storefront truly is, at this point in time, it's the remnants of what I wanted to do, and now serves as my interface to share what I do build, because I am still building stuff for, I'm still building these designs and selling them as I can. It's helping fund the bus build. It's bringing in a little bit of scratch, but it's putting these lower cost miners into the hands of someone who hasn't mined yet or is stepping up from a bid axe and can't, quite go stretch $2,000 for, an Avalon Q, or 1,200 for a Mini 3, which is slick, good price, but then you're finding yourself back into a closed source system, right? At
Yes.
least with these retrofits now, we have third party firmware options, and soon on the horizon, open source options. So that's the route. This is what I like. But so that's, X. You go to X, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm posting most of the time. And if you have questions, just DM me, because I enjoy it, right? I'm gonna answer if it's, a topic that I enjoy and talking about, which is this. I absolutely love mining. It's the most fascinating thing about Bitcoin to me.
Yeah. You and I both, brother. It makes you and I've been saying this a lot since getting into mining, is that it makes you appreciate every sat more, the value of this when you understand the energy and the dynamics that go into making this Bitcoin and
Yeah.
goes into mining. How can you not appreciate every single sat more? Because it has meaning. This isn't paper money that's printed out of thin air. It's for lack of a better term, some people don't like it. It's energy money. It's the currency of the universe.
Yeah, and if you're mining itself, one of the important things that, you know we haven't even mentioned is that those are KYC sats, and most people know that by now if they're watching a mining channel. But for those who don't, that's, you want that. You want the
Yes.
KYC version of this asset if you can get it, and this is the way
The
you
the
get it.
non the non KYC
Non
the
KYC, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yep,
KYC free sats are the best sats. They're wild sats. Right on, man.
absolutely.
Well, everybody, I think the blueprint for the pleb revolution has been broadcast to you here today by the amazing Sat Stacking Pleb. I implore you to go to his X page at Sat Stacking Pleb and follow along his journey as he's building his self-sovereign stack. Huge thanks to you, Mark, my brother, for dropping these knowledge bombs.
I'm gonna drive that
Um,
bus down to Mexico one day.
oh man, please do. Yeah, yeah.
It'll
Tacos are
happen.
on me.
We're gonna shop for countries, maybe not even shop for states. We may shop for countries. So,
Now you're
it,
thinking.
we're
There's
but
a
yeah, we'll come down.
freedom spirit out here in the Baja Peninsula. So
That's
yeah,
exactly
would
where
love
we.
to
Yeah,
have you.
we're gonna be hitting the Baja Peninsula. So yeah, I'll be driving a bus down there.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll arrange that for sure. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this blueprint for the revolution with SatStackingPleb. That's a wrap on this episode of the Home Mining Podcast. Do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube, on the Solo Satoshi YouTube channel, or the Home Mining Podcast on Spotify. Share this with a fellow heat punk, and we'll catch you next time stacking those sovereign sats. Peace.
Later.